And good evening, and here it is. Bing bong, bing bong. 7:02 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you are watching Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob, and I am your Sensei Al Bob. And I am your griot, right? I am your shamanic, psychosocial, cultural, forensic, anthropologic, alchemist griot, right? And so what is that, right? So shamanism, what is that? Is that a religion? No. Is that magic? No. Shamanism is a frame, a cultural frame, right? And what it is a way of looking at your life and the life around you. And what that frame is an indigenous understanding. You are interconnected with all of your relations. And who are that? Is that Uncle Bob and Aunt Susie in Cincinnati? No. All your relations are everything, from dust mites, you know, everything that's scaled, feathered, skinned, you know, um, warm blooded, cold blooded, right? You know, you know, carbon based elements and silicate based elements and everything in between. That's all your relations. Plus, the concept of time is not a linear thing, but experiential, right? The uh, the word education. What does that mean? You cough up some money to somebody and they give you a piece of paper? No. Education is from the Latin, from the Sumerian. Education is knowing, understanding, overstanding by experience. Your experience gives you the wisdom to overstand, right? To step up rather than be stepped on. So that is a frame of experience and understanding. And, you know, that's shamanism, right? So, psychosocial cultural forensic anthropology. What's that? I showed somebody my business card and they tried to be funny. Oh, you're a psycho. No, not many people say they're a psycho. And I said, no, you have to understand. To understand the the psychologic or psycho, you have to, and that's again going into the Latin, the loci, the word, the understanding of how you see yourself, your psyche, your psycho, and that your psycho. To understand that, you have to understand the social characteristics, meaning your orientation, your job, your sexual preferences, whether you like Coca-Cola or Pepsi, whether you're, you know, uh, you know, you know, Brooklyn Dodgers fans or New York Yankees fan, that's the psychosocial, right? Um, Cultural. What's cultural? Cultural is you're not the opera. No, it's grandma. Where grandma and grandpa came from. Where your heritage came from. What you eat for holidays. On Christmas. What do you have? You have eggplant parmesan. If you're Italian, do you eat leavened bread? Do you? That's cultural, right? Where grandma came from and what you celebrate. Your holidays. Then psychosocial, cultural, forensic. So that is a tapestry that is being woven, right? So forensic is you take the tapestry apart, fiber by fiber, and look at it under a microscope. Then anthropology was developed in the latter part of the 18th and 19th centuries as a quote unquote science. And I have to tell you, pretty much all science is ridiculous. It's just somebody's opinion, because science is based on theory. And we all know that, conspiracy theories, ooh, so it's all based on a theory. It's conspiracy because it's a bunch of scholastics who are living in a box, guys who are psychologists, who are sociologists, anthropologists, but, you know, conspiracy of those guys theory, right? So, science is a conspiracy theory, basically, based on the observations of our limited resources of our senses, our sight, our smell, our taste, our hearing, our feeling, and that's about it. And those senses, you know, science has measured that those senses can sense 0.0049% of the universe. That's all we get, right? So the other 99 point, 99 one 6% of the universe, we don't understand, and we're starting to, because we've developed instruments based on our limitations. Like, we had no idea what microwaves were, we had no idea what radio waves were, we had no idea, what ultraviolet was, we had no any of this stuff. But then we started, oh, look at this, I wonder what this means, and then we figure out, you know the reflective. Again, Plato living in the cave, we'd see the shadow. So all our science is based on shadows, right? What is real is this love's co-creation, and that's the alchemy. So what is alchemy? Turning base metals into gold. So, today, when you get some lead bars turned into gold, well, today's lead is almost as expensive as gold. So why would you do that? No. The base metal is us. This little bag of water, this avatar, this isn't my soul. Sorry. No, this is the little android that was sent into this box to experience this, right? And so the base metals are, so I'm 90 something percent water, right? I'm just an ugly bag of water. Well, maybe I now have a new look, and so I'm a little more, he doesn't look like a bush anymore. So the bottom line is, this bag of water has a few trace elements that allows, when I am breathing, the prana that is all around us, which is a life force that animates all life. I breathe it in, goes into my lungs. Those little cilia and the aortas, the little sacs in my lungs, are like antennas, and the blood gets pumped by my heart through my lungs and those little sacs and those little fibers. And if I'm breathing deep enough, the prana gets into the blood and gets swerved around, meaning, blood just doesn't go blub, 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 blub through your veins. It swirls, right? Ooh, it's a vortex, right? And it's I wish I had enough teeth to pronounce it, but it's that thing that looks like a shell, right? The Fernucci equation. And mathematically, through geometry, that math turns into this swirling, portal, time vectored thing. And so our blood is swirling through our veins, arteries, and capillaries, and it's going along the outside. And that swirling is the thing that kind of leaves, when you have bad cholesterol, it kind of does that. But inside that swirl going clockwise is another swirl going counterclockwise. And inside that swirl, there's another swirl going 90 degrees parallax to it. What does that do? It turns your blood flowing through your veins and through every cell of your body into a scalar generator, right? Thus creating photonic light. So the energetics of the prana flowing through your blood vessels and arteries and capillaries creates this current flow, right? And that is what your mitochondria is. So little lightning bolts around every cell. And that is the photonic light that brings, love's co-creation, the animation of us in this vectored bag of water, this avatar, into connection, right? And hey, buddy, bud, I'm always in a good mood. So I was in a great mood last night. I was hot. I was great. So we're talking about the vector dynamics of our blood and how the prana creates photonic light in our ugly bag of water here. And I was like, earlier on, went through the crux of, the shamanic psychosocial cultural forensic anthropologist. And again, what I was saying about anthropology, it was this make-believe science created by racist powered monarchies to prove the rest of the world, because they were white men, it was God's will that they basically go in and take over other people's lands and their lives, being imperial, right? Like the Roman Empire, right? So that's anthropology. But in the early 20th century, Margaret Mead studied with a guy who came over from Germany and said, no, that's not anthropology. Anthropology is where you take off your prejudicial glasses and you put on the grass skirt and you go live with indigenous people like them so you can try to empathize. That anthropology is supposed to be this discipline that you empathize with individuals unlike yourself so you can understand yourself through their looking at you, right? So that's where this man took Margaret Mead and four other women, one being Zara, I forgot her name, but she was a painter, a musician. She was one of the goddesses of the Harlem Renaissance in the 1920s, and she came from Florida. She came from a place called Port St. Lucie. And I have a friend of mine who's a great painter and a musician who was related to her, and he made these paintings of her, and they're in the Port St. Lucie Library. And that was part of the Port St. Lucie school system. That was basically back in the day when Brown and education came out, and the Supreme Court said, everybody's got to integrate. And states like Virginia and Florida and a few others said, well, screw it. We're not going to do that. What we're going to do is not have the state, be in the education business. Meaning nobody's going to be educated, period. Well, the white people took the money that the federal government gave those states, put them in block grants, and put, private schools for white people. Well, the black folk who were as smart did the same thing. And then got even better schools because they had total control. And that's what, DeVos, Donnie's education lady, wants to do, but basically only give that money to rich people, right? Because that was an unexpected consequence to have the black people to do the same thing the white people did, and it did good by them, right? That's why we've got this whole group of black folk who went on to college and became attorney generals and governors of state and police chiefs, and things changed, right? So the white racist folks did something they thought they could get over on the poor, not just black folk, but the poor folk. And anyway, so that's where we are today. And what happened to those folks there who built themselves a great education system? The white folks came and took part of Port St. Lucie and turned it, the part that was on the beach, turned it into condos, and then took over the black schools and put up barbed wire fences from the rich neighborhood into those schools so the black folk couldn't even go there. And then they had to go to the crappier schools over there. And that public library that had these great paintings of this great woman, this black goddess of art, culture, and everything else, basically, those guys sold the paintings at, the Rich People Paint Gallery place in New York. So anyway, that was the thing, and so that's psychosocial cultural forensic anthropology, and the alchemy is taking your better self, right? That ascended conscious self, that non-whiny self that can let things go, that doesn't have to go over and over and over. As I keep saying, good thoughts in, bring out good words bring forth good actions bring good deeds bring good outcomes. So that's what shamanic, psychosocial, cultural, forensic, anthropologic alchemy is, right? Okay. So I've been reading from this class I gave in the 90s, and I have, I don't know, maybe 60 of these kind of classes, right? So I first, when I was down in the coal bin, I read a couple pages, and the name of this class is Breaking Habitual Actions by Relaxation through breath, right? And those habitual actions are usually caused by right from the start. Can you imagine taking a little baby who's just come from the womb of its mother and that 9 months of feeling just amazingly great? Um, you're floating and you're getting everything you need, and it's dark and it's warm and it's comfy. And these hands come into your world and rip you out and slap you up the side of the head and cut that little cord that was bringing you all of that goodness. And then, if you're a boy, they give you, they slice the meat off your poor little penis. This is like, the first few hours of your existence. And boy, does that, they don't even give you any Novocaine or nothing. They just slice your poor little penis up. And there is no reason. Actually, God put that foreskin on there for a reason. It's actually to protect yourself. It's like having a built in condom, right? Not so much to keep you from getting someone pregnant, but it cuts down on, you know, um, sexually communicated diseases, along with all the hair down there. People who shave that off, oh, I don't know why that hair is down there. Well, it's to protect you, right? So, someone does this at infancy, boy, you got a bad attitude from that point on. And then all the other control, you're going through life, and your poor parents have just had, somewhere between 19 and 30 years of this mind melting. By the time you're 6, you're in um, you know, a school where they're taking, you're ripped away from mom. Today, back in the day when I was a child, I had my grandma. The community around me was like protecting. Most mothers weren't working, right? The average American family's income has not gone up since 1972, which basically prices of everything have gone up, but not the average income. And basically, that's why now mommy and daddy both have to work. Not only do they have to work, both have to have 2 or 3 jobs just to put food on the table, pay the rent, and keep the lights on, right? This causes anxiety, right? And then, within the tribalness of the family, there's all this, friction and who got the biggest pork chop. And, then your parents get stressed out. So they start drinking and start yelling at you. And at 6, you have no idea why they're yelling at you. This is the world we have born into. This is the world that has been nurtured into us for the last 40, 50 years, or pretty much after the First World War. And it's all artificial, right? It's been done on purpose. Nothing is not scripted. Nothing is, oh, it just happened, just organic, no. Everything has been, problem, action, solution, right? So when so the title of this class, or this show here, is don't be a victim. If you feel misjudged, if you feel upset, if you think anyone was mean to you, it's really, you are victimizing yourself. The best thing is, if someone's saying something, you should step back and go, why is this happening? And then look at the cause and effect, right? And if it's someone just having a bad day, you shouldn't take it personal, right? You should just say, okay, and try to listen. Meaning, I have these 3 little rules. Doctor, do no harm. Meaning, I try not to get involved if my involvement will cause harm, right? Now, if what I do at the end of the day brings a good outcome, well, that's not harm, But I don't want to hurt people or get them in a place, right? Now, it may take some time for me to suss that one out, but I try to do it before I go in there. Second one is have an exit strategy. I do not go into a place where I'm going to be painted into a corner, right? I basically, um, if I can't find a positive exit strategy going along with Dr. Do No Harm, meaning I want to bring those in the situation, the innocence, out and exit them into safety, right? So do no harm, get the innocence exited, into, away from harm into a safe place. Those are two. And the third one is, and this is like one of my personal motivation things. I don't get involved unless I can learn something. If I can learn something from getting involved in something, I go there, right? And I don't go there to become famous. I don't go there to get pats on the back. I don't go there because my real, is to appreciate the situation, to be empathetic to the individuals that are involved, to do, to make a thing better than it was, and not cause any harm. Like the prayer, bless us indeed, enlarge our territory, put your hand on our shoulder to keep us from evil so we will do no harm. That's kind of my three rules come from that prayer. Very ancient prayer. So, anyway, so you shouldn't feel ridicule, you shouldn't feel people are talking down to you, because if you do, you're just ridiculing yourself and talking down to yourself. If you feel that, you should step back and go, why am I feeling this? What's going on? It's a good vehicle. Plato said, an self-reflective life is a life worth not living, right? So the thing is to, reflect, and I try to do that, but no one's perfect, and to judge, I try not to judge anybody, whatever they, there are a lot of folks, I talk to a lot of religious people, right? And I can because I don't judge them. I don't say their religion isn't my religion because, the only thing I have is faith. I don't have belief, because belief revolves around your ego, and your ego is an illusion, of your fear. That's what the ego is. It's a self-reflected mechanism of your, hormonal structure of your fight and flight modality turned into, rather than the saber-toothed tiger coming after you, your ill feeling of yourself coming after you. So these are the things we need to be self-reflective about, right? So anyway, so let's see, where's these glasses? To read this, I have to read anything I need. The sad thing about glasses is they always get dirty. You don't even touch them and they get smudged, So let me, at this point right now, say that I apologize for everything I say. Let me say right now, don't believe a word I say, I am just a storyteller. If the story I tell, resonates and makes you feel anxious, makes you feel bad, I apologize, right? And all I say is, try and find the best in what I have to say, right? Because that will bring the best out in you. So I get down on my knees. I would do it physically, but I wouldn't be able to get up. Once I get gravity to go below my belly button, it's hard for me to get up. So just visualize that I'm on my knees and I am, apologizing in the deepest, most sincere way, right? And I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, 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 I'm sorry. Don't believe a word I say. Same as it ever was. Okay? Okay. So let's see if I can read this without having to find something to clean my glasses better than my shirt. Breaking habitual actions by relaxation through breath, right? And that's what I do when we go into state, right? Which of our separated robot habitual actions of fear, greed, selfish hate, ignorance, and prejudicial thinking is the hardest pattern to break? It's like drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, they are all related. Have one, you want the other. What are our worst habits? But those we most fear of being found out about are habitual actions that bring us the most shame, are those that we perform with the highest level of recidivism. We do this not out of reason, but out of fear, to hide from those things we cannot face: rejection, abandonment, and the fear most excruciating to face that of the unknown. Most people will they're like, morbidly miserable, but they will fight to the death to stay morbidly miserable, if it means that they're going to have to change anything, right? If they're going to have to live a different life, they'll go, now that life that just moved a little this way may be unbelievably beautiful and, the best, but they will kill anyone in their way that wants to move them just a little bit that way. And that's what we call belief. And that's why belief is a prejudice. And most people, I'm not prejudiced. I like white people. I like black people. I like, no, that's racism. Prejudice is when you believe so strongly in that belief that you'll kill people for it. That's what 9/11 was about. That's why virtually every war is about, right? And so I've studied this a good deal, and I studied what other way smarter people than me have realized what's going on, right? And so, rejection, abandonment, and fear, most excruciating to face of that of the unknown. And what unknowable is the most difficult to face, but that of death and its existential duality of death's seeming finality and its path for spiritual meaning in our world of intimate spiritual emptiness. And that's another problem. If you do not have faith, forget belief. Faith is a thing that unknowably you know, but it's personally. So you're not saying, "Hey, you got to have the same." I know this, so you need to follow what I say. No, faith is an individual thing. It's that artist in the first person. That it's the aboriginal sense. When you people talk about having a gut feeling about something, that is faith in action, right? So, um, boop, 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 boop. Spiritual emptiness. So whenever you feel, oh, they're picking on me, that's called spiritual emptiness. Cultural death and spiritual emptiness are the cornerstones to the reason that we humans act habitually by living in a world of our own edifice of separated robot reality of fear, anger, violence, greed, selfish hate, ignorance, and prejudicial thinking. Okay, that's the first paragraph, right? So, boo, 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 boo. Boo, 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 boo. Let's see. So, what does research think about this? Boo, 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 boo. Boo, boo, boo. Uh, let's see. You were pretty nasty to me last night. And talking down to me, I'm sorry, but I don't let anyone talk to me like you did last night. That's why I'm asking if you're in a better mood. Well, hey, I'm always in a good mood, and I'm in a pretty good mood tonight, right? Earlier today, around 5:30ish, I had a little interlude saying, "Hey, I'm going to do a live chat at 7," and I talked about. If you've noticed, I kind of, I don't look like a bush. I went to my barber. I go to once a year, and he trimmed me up. Right, but like I said, I don't look like a bush anymore. And what was great about this, he normally opens at 3 in the afternoon, and and cuts hair until about 8, and then he has to go, goes has dinner and with his friends, and plays pool. He's a really good pool player, and goes hear music. This town, well, not this town where I am, but 60 miles from here where Roanoke is, there's a lot of talent in that town, and it's too bad the powers that be don't support it, right? Um, because these people play, it's like house parties. What's a house party? It's like when people were segregated and they couldn't play in public places, so they played in their house, right? And they have that in that town. There's a ton. Like this Christmas, I put a few little, from my phone onto the YouTube of little, house parties of that culture. And a friend of mine who has a jazz band, he played Christmas carols in a jazzy kind of way. His daughter, who's a poet and a puppeteer, did poets and poetry and puppetrying to the jazz, and a bunch of other young people sang. It was very sweet, and people brought food to the library, and everyone shared a meal and listened to this thing. And he did this one song that was very sad because he read off the names of great musicians that came from Roanoke. That I've been here. I've been in Roanoke or around Roanoke. First time I went to Roanoke was 1972, I guess, and the Dumas was still going as a black hotel and cultural, you know, pantheon. And he basically read off a list of 100 names of people who have died in the last 10 years, great artists. And, and I did, he read that list, and it was amazing because I knew a lot of those names. I didn't realize they came from Roanoke. I knew them as international artists. And that's the amazing thing, that this place really still does give a birth to some pretty amazing things, but the powers that be do not um, give any kind of support. And those folks, I also put on this woman who's like a force of nature, and she has a school in a church that she teaches 60 kids how to, teaches them a STEM curriculum, science, technology, engineering, math, um, through art, through poetry, through music, through theater, through graphic arts, through film. And she's been doing this now 6 years, and she's gotten, out of those 60 kids, about 8 of them graduated high school, and this is from really crappy high school, and gone on to get scholastic, free, not free ride, but they have shown so brightly at her program that they've gone on to college, got a scholarship, not for football or basketball or sports, but for, scholarship, right? And in the city, the state, and the churches do not support her. The church she does the school in, they make her pay rent. She takes, during the summer, she takes 60 kids, 5 days a week, gives them breakfast and lunch, the only meals they get, and gets them to graduate high school and go on to college. Thus, they're not going to jail. They're not robbing people, and they're going to pay taxes. You'd think the state, city, county, federal government would say, wow, this is a great program. Miss DeVos, you'd think, would give her a block grant, but no, right? And do you hear any of those kids go, everyone's pretty nasty to me, always talking down to me, I don't let anyone do, I'm going to beat them? No. They let their hearts shine, So go look at a week or two that away, and see, as Buddha said, let's see, death is not a problem, and spiritual emptiness is just a matter of not sensing the roses in the garden. As the Buddha said to his students, death is like slipping out of a snug slipper, not something to waste your whole life on. And to see the roses, you first have to realize you're in the garden. And those kids that this great woman, um, she realized, even though they're in, I mean, a really nasty ghetto, you should see, you know, that neck of the woods. Um, but she sees it as a garden. She sees those 60 kids as the roses, right? So she doesn't get paid. She actually spends thousands of dollars a year to run her program, right? Now, I've written um, lots of grants for her, right? And when um, she has to get people from this neck of the woods, the only people who really sing her praises are poor people without education. Now, there's about 10 colleges around here that I've been part of and tried to get those schools to sponsor her. They're actually scared of her. That this woman is doing something they should be doing, but they don't. This woman is doing something that they're actually getting grant money to do, and they don't. Like this one college, has a big program, gets $20 million a year to, make their education relevant. I mean, these kids are supposed to be, because Roanoke is this very, you know, got every slice of the pie. You know what they do to have social relevance? They take the kids one day to the United Way, where they say a film, and then the United Way takes them over to a food bank, and they take um, food out of boxes and puts them on a shelf. And they do that for 4 hours. And that is the whole social relevance of that student's 4 years in college. And these kids are studying sociology and anthropology and psychology, and the only connection to their community they've had in 4 years that wasn't out of a textbook was watching a film at the United Way and spending 3 hours stacking cans in a dark room. So that's kind of what's up, right? And so this little program I've going on. Oh, and I've read you a third of it, right? And I got to, we the people, the children of God, have chosen to separate ourselves from our Creator's life, love, that illuminates all that is truly is, by choosing to live in a dark, dank cave of thought that limits our world with illusions like thinking the world is flat, or that our holy book is the only true word of God, or our God is the only true God. Therefore, we should kill all the other non believers. And I don't believe in God, so I got to kill them all. No, sorry. That's kind of, self defeating, right? And we don't want to defeat ourselves, right? We want to, grow. We're put on this planet to be alchemists, to turn the base metals in our um, bag of water, and those base metals are, the anger, the self-loathing, the where's that nice little sentence? Ooh, by choosing to live in a dark, dank cave of thought, Ooh, boom. Our free will of individual thought, love, and beauty, all which are cherished gifts of our Creator's love for us. That's where we need to go, gang. Not complain, not to be upset. And if you're feeling that, that's a good thing, because that should give you a heads up. I need to step back and look at this. I feel this way. Where is this coming from? What is it? Is it just, this guy's a jerk? Or should I see what's the reference point within the context of my whole life? And that's why I kind of, you know, do these guided meditations where you go to your Akashic record and you look into it and you see exactly who you are. And that's why I have you put your right hand on the right page and the left hand on the left blank page, and you lean into it and evacuate all of your anger, all of your hate, all your self-loathing, because you're angry about yourself. You hate yourself. You have loathing about yourself. That's why you act or feel or experience any of these negative thoughts, right? Because in reality, love's co-creation, all there is, right? And it's, whatever we experience here is an illusion that we manufacture ourselves, right? So yeah, I'm not, I'm your sensei, I'm not the guy who's opening up the jar of baby food and spooning it into you. No, I kind of, you know, rock the boat a little bit, right? But I always give you an opportunity. I always give you, um, you know, some insight. Now I'm not going to, I can't. It's like my mom said, you can drag a horse to water, but you can't make it drink, right? So you guys got to do a little work here too. Uh, boop, boop, boop. We, the monkey children of God, have been sold into slavery on the cheap, where in the fast bread and circus was all it took. Now today it's fast food and a flat screen. Okay. So I'm skipping, I've reread, I read this thing about 5 times. So I'm trying to get to a point where everyone's caught up and I can start anew, which will be, let's see, how long have we been talking? 41 minutes and 41 seconds, not too much. If you wish to change your life for the better, you must take action. These these curriculum will give you, the individual, the tools to take control of your own life by simply showing you without excuse how to actively listen to the truth of your Creator's unconditional love and move beyond the constraint of the assault of your past. I keep saying, don't believe a word I say. If, I'm like that little rubber mallet that you hit a tuning fork with, right? And why it's rubber, that if it was a metal hammer, you hit the metal tuning fork, it would create dissonance, right? Hitting it with a rubber hammer just, transfers a certain level of coherent energy to that tuning fork that then vibrates on the frequency that it was meant to vibrate on, right? So, let's see. I hate it when this happens. I just kind of run my finger across the cursor and then all kinds of hell breaks loose. Hey, Jane, good to see you, girl. And great slipper analog. Yep, thank you. Well, it's not mine, it's Plato's. Slipstream of lice. Yep. Baby food. Yep. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so let's see. Let's keep going. Let's keep moving forward here. Okay. These curriculum will give you, the individual, the tools to take control of your superconscious mind, where your soul resides within your Creator's love. If you wish to understand that you exist far past the restrictions of your autonomic or robot senses of illusion, of meaningless, self important, habitual actions, you must meditate on changing your life. You, the individual, must take control of your spiritual mind and body in new and intuitive ways. You must listen and attain your soul's potential within the unconditional love of your Creator. Now, I have been doing this channel, this program, virtually every night, every day. We're like 2 shows a day since May 8th, um, 2018. Almost 50, how many seconds? So May 8th, that's to this last May, that's 12 months. And then May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. So that's 12 plus 7 gives us 7, 8, 19 months I've been doing this, right? Right? And I constantly go back to meditation and guided meditation, and I tell you stories to entertain, again, as the griot, not as the entertainer, but as the griot, to give you frames of reference outside your restricted, you know, addiction to your breaking habitual actions by relaxation, breaking you away from your habitual actions. We all have them. We live in this illusionary world. It's hard to not have habitual actions. Your Griot Sensei Al Bob, between 2008 and 2014, I had one heck of a amazing habitual action. I worked for desperate lawyers and lived the most hedonist. I was swimming in a swimming pool of chocolate mousse. I gained 270 pounds. I lived the high life, right? And then I died in a plate of spaghetti, right? But I came, I didn't die, Magic Max, would say in Princess Bride, well, he's dead, but not all dead. And that was me. And I came back. And it took me 6 years to get to this place where I'm, have nothing, but do have my basic health. Meaning I'm still sick. All the things I had, diabetes, neuropathy, charcoal legs, a whole bunch of other things, I still have. But I have been able, through meditation, to navigate it to a place where it's not, my endocrinologist can't believe I'm alive. He keeps kidding me that I'm the healthiest dead guy he knows. And my podiatrist and my bone doctor can't believe I used to have metal clamps on my leg and walk with a walker, but I don't. I have these two little things on my ankles so that my feet don't snap off. But other than that, and I didn't let them operate. They wanted to cut my legs off. They wanted to, cut me from my pubic bone to my esophagus and pull out my pipes and give me a quadruple bypass of every organ I had. I said, no, it took me 6 years to, through diet and meditation and changing my life to serve love's co-creation, which I've always done, but I went back to it. Meaning, my time in Putney, Vermont, studying with my sensei, put me on quite an amazing spiritual aesthetic point of view. Every day, I prayed, meditated, 5 to 20 times a day. Every day, I did Tai Chi and Qigong 5, 10 times a day. Every day, I looked at everything with that perspective of to serve love's co-creation. And from, 20 to about 32, I did that every day, really. And I did all kinds of stuff, doing, working and careers and artist and social activist. But I still had that as my base foundation of doing everything. But then I started to actually succeed somewhat in all of these endeavors and make money and have businesses and have employees and get married and, what they would call in the material world, get a life, and it slowly took me away from that to the point when I was 45, I didn't do any of that stuff anymore, And I remember, I guess I was, 48, I guess. And I was at a gas station and I had took my credit card and slipped it in there and put the nozzle in my car. And I had smelled that the vapors of the benzene and the gasolines before they tried to get rid of it. And it took me back in time and space to when I first smelled that with my father when I was 10, when he was getting some gas for the lawnmower. And he went in to get something and said, "Here," he like let me be responsible to pour the gasoline in the can. Don't let it flow out, don't do that. But he just, okay, you're responsible. And so I was real close. And so I was like huffing those fumes. So I basically was experiencing that moment again. Like, I was 52, 10, like 42 years. It's like a rubber band. Bing! I shot back there. And then, you know, I didn't have my hand on the nozzle. The machine turned itself off. When it clicked like that, I looked up and I saw about 20 different dimensions. That rubber band kind of was like bouncing all over the place. And right then and there, I should have said, because I said, I haven't done Tai Chi um, in, you know, 26 years or something. And I looked down and the gas pumps were, those islands, and it's like on a concrete pad, and they pour the concrete and they have those expansion lines, and my feet were toe to toe to an expansion line. And when you start Tai Chi, you put your toes right next to each other. And I kind of looked around, and my knees and my hips and my shoulders all went into, my form, right? And I just started to do crow, that form. And I hadn't done it in 26 years, but the body memory, because my rubber band shot me right back to that point the last time I did that form. And I went through it. And people were all around, and I am just like stepping and sweeping, and I'm, doing the 21 moves of that form without, perfectly, you know and everyone around me is what the people in the supermarket are looking through the window, and I'm like doing the form, and the people over there. And when I finished the form, and I again walked through the concrete pad to the next line on the expansion part of the concrete, and my toes lined straight up, my hips were right where it's supposed to be, everything lined up perfectly. And I hadn't done that form at least 26 to 30 years. And the body, because that smell of that brought me to 10, and then I bing, bounced all over the place. That point, I should have walked away from the corporate world, from everything. And because I had some money in the bank, I had this, I had that. It hadn't, the '08 crash hadn't occurred yet. And I should have, because I was reset again. But did I? No. I said, oh, I got to get off to that appointment and see, and I got in the car and I drove to the appointment, and another 10 years went by, and I packed on a good 200 pounds. I was already 100 pounds overweight. My perfect weight is 180, and I was already, around 280. And then from that time to there, I almost got to 500 pounds. I should have died. That was beyond ridiculous. But the universe says, okay, here's our buddy. He's beyond ridiculous. Let's go for it, right? So, boo, 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 boo. Baby food. Yep. So, let's see. The course of study I wish to offer is how to use your heart, mind, and body to calm the sea of your robotic senses so that you may listen and appreciate the loving truth of your Creator, so that we, the people of God's love, can listen to the new old world of the love of our Creator with inside our soul, and live our lives in the image and likeness of our Creator's love, right? Now, I wrote this, uh, you know, 30 years ago, the initial one of this, and I was dealing with people who were really Christian. So instead of calling it love's co-creation, I called it God, because and they would appreciate that. And if I was talking about love's co-creation, they go, huh, right? These tools to accomplish this are meditation, the process of conscious breathing that is focusing all your mental power on nothing but your breathing, and bringing that breath to the forefront of your imaginary mirror. That is where you dream, where you experience REM sleep. The word meditation means many things to many people. Some, it means the focusing of thought on a single pressing issue. To author, it's relaxing. To others, it is um, ecstatic prayer. For our purpose, we will define meditation as an alleviating the grasping at thoughts that cutting through the mental distraction of the illusion of the material world. Do, 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 do. This grasping of distraction is this grasping and distraction is called the childish or monkey mind, and how it runs around simply reacting, pulling, and pushing to cause an effect rather than coming to the realization from our higher consciousness. Visual visitation within the process of conscious breathing, with each deeper and focused breath, the individual experiences the quieting of the childish or monkey mind, the mind that jumps around uncontrollably from one thought to thought without completion or synthesis of that thought. By quieting the childish mind through focused breath, enabling the individual to process deeply within the physical, the spiritual, and the psychological, the prana and chi, both the same life giving force of the Creator that exists in duality but as one. One cannot live without the other. The prana has to be grounded to Mother Earth through our chi, and our chi needs to reach heaven through our prana. Within all of the subatomic forces of gravity, electromagnetic, strong, and especially that of the weak binding force. Okay, let's go to, because I've already read these things twice, so you could go back, you know, the last few shows and go to that place where you might hear me saying this stuff. So I don't want to, I want to get to the new thing, right? These tools to accomplish this are meditation, the process. Okay, everybody we went there. That's 5. Okay, we flip the page to 6. And uh, man's non-concern of man's inequity, of man's everyday sins, of the separated robot sense of fear, greed, selfish hate, ignorance, and prejudicial thinking shows there is true evil in man's free willed world. But evil's existence is a figment of our free will's separation from our Creator's love. The evil of the separation from our Creator's love in our material everyday world is only real in the fact that we choose to create it through our free will's actions of separation from our God's love and forgiveness. The devil truly exists and tempts to fool us in further separating ourselves from God's love and forgiveness. Our but the devil has not made our world the hell on earth it is today, and has not been responsible for all the darkness in our loveless reptile world. This malevolence has been brought on by our free will separation from our Creator's garden of unconditional love and forgiveness. The devil did not make us do it. And in an instant, we, humanity, the monkey children of God, can reshape our existence in a blink of an eye. We can embrace our Creator's love and forgiveness and reject our separation from our Creator's unconditional love and forgiveness. I'll read that one more time. The devil did not make us do it. And in an instant, we, humanity, the monkey children of God, can reshape our existence in a blink of an eye. We can embrace our Creator's love and forgiveness and reject our separation from our Creator's unconditional love and forgiveness. When I speak of God's good grace of evil's courage, no, excuse me. When I speak of God's good grace of civil courage of the individual, that is the interconnectedness and interdependence of humanity existing awake like the Buddha in all of us. All it will take for the individual to awaken to the goodness that resides within our Father, Father's house of our superconscious mind is the practice of prayer and meditation. Again, I wrote this about 30 years ago. So when I talk about, our Father and all of that, I never, I never put a gender on love's co-creation, right? It's all of us, right? But I wrote this to speak to a group of people. That's how they looked at things. So I keep having to. Okay, so I'm getting close to the point of the new information, right? The real class, right? Okay. How to, let's see, what page is this? 7, okay. The prayer, our meditation that we will use will cut through our monkey mind, cut through our programming, genetic, cultural, and reveal the primordial awareness. This aboriginal awareness will allow us to, without cause or condition, no longer controlled by patterning learned and inherited. Breaking these claims, these chains, we will use our breath and love's prayer. That to breathe itself is prayer we do 26,000 times a day. So if you're conscious about your breath, to get that 20% more, you have to shut the monkey up here. When you breathe out that 30%, you're expelling all of that angst that you have. They were mean to me. Ooh, boo hoo. No, you breathe out. You're breathing out all of that angst. And then you see, you take that breath into state, illuminate yourself with your prana and your chi, take that illumination into your imaginary mirror and focus it into your subconscious mind and go into your library of your Akashic record. And you have your librarian bring that big book. You open it up to the 2 blank pages, and it's blank because you put your right hand on the blank right page and you put your left hand on the blank left page. When they talk about a blank page, there isn't something there to distract you. It's blank. And then you eliminate, you take everything that is mean and cruel and evil and hateful and self-loathing and doubtful, and you evacuate it. And that's why you're breathing 30%, because you're evacuating all of that darkness into your Akashic record. Then boom, you close the book, and it's no longer in you, it's in your Akashic record. And you feel 100% better, right? Don't you feel 100% better right now just because I explained it without, without you consciously breathing in that 20 and out that 30? And that's because you're watching this show, how many are there of you? 2 of you. All 2 of you are experiencing this show because this show is a shamanic field. You're seeing it on your screen. And it's not the incandescence of the screen that you're seeing. It is the field of the shamanic photonic light that is, wow, I feel better, right? And why there's only 2 of you when it started out with almost 5 or so, is that the folks who have jumped off can't stand it. It is showing something to them. I'm going to have to change something. Oh, wow, I'm getting anxious here. I'm starting to feel bad. This guy's making me ill. It's his fault. He did it. It's his fault. It's all his fault. It's all his fault. And I'm not going to listen to him unless he apologizes to my ego. You know. Anyway, back to it. Let's see. Well, 1 hour, 4 minutes. We're going to be on here maybe 2 or 3 hours. So I am going to get through all of this tonight. I am. I am. How desperately, let's see, we need to learn to listen. Boop, 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 boop. Now, let's see. How to listen, a most important thing. So here's our first real lesson. The other, so this is page 7. All those 6 pages were, getting us here. The prayer or meditation that we will look at 26,000 times. Prayer and meditation are the main key tools to understand the inner self of our subconscious, of our superconscious mind. Prayer and meditation are the underpinning in the enabling of our free will to follow God's request for our world to return to the garden of our Creator's unconditional love. This is why prayer and meditation enable our free will to see, hear, and communicate with our Creator unconditional love. We and our free will need this path of prayer and meditation to get back to the Creator's garden. All we have to do is attain this love is to listen. That's the first lesson we're going to have to learn, is how to listen. And how do you listen? Is by clearing the monkey out of your mind, to shut your mind off. Your mind is just, it's not who you are. It's not where your soul is. It isn't where even your consciousness is. It's just a metal box with a Rolodex in it that your squirrel runs around going, what am I going to do? Oh, they said something mean. Oh, it's their fault. I hate them. They better apologize to me. How to listen, a most important thing. How well do we listen? What do we listen to? Why do we listen? Do we listen at all? Who or what do we listen to? Do we listen to figure out our world around us? Do we listen with an attitude, ready to jump? We listen with our fight and flight mode already heightened, where the anxiety is already building. Well, that's not quite listening. I used to, when I was a negotiator, I'd be there amongst a group and I would see, I try to get people to start talking about who and what they are, what they really wanted, how we were all going to get to the finish line together. And once I started that ball rolling, I would watch people talk and they wouldn't even listen. They were just waiting for one person to shut up so they could say what they wanted to say, because what they wanted to say was more important than anything else, right? Is there a little voice inside our head that edits our thoughts, our impressions, and actions? We fear if we told anyone that we heard voices, the man in the white jackets would come to take us away. Ha ha, hee hee, for a little pony farm. But we all hear voices. Whose little voice is it that we hear? Is it our voice? Or our voice in a cage? Or is it the voice of the keeper of the cage? We hear or someone or something else. I'll read that again. Whose little voice is it that we hear? Question mark. Is it our voice or a voice in a cage? Or is it the voice of the keeper of the cage we hear? Or someone or something else? To change our lives for the better, we have to actively listen to the truth of our Creator's unconditional love, love's co-creation, and move beyond the constraints of the assault of our past little voices, our inability of our senses to listen truthfully to overshadow the new possibilities, meaning our fears that we don't even know what happened when we were young, but we have this almost a muscle of fear built into us. So if it even comes close to anything that we thought we felt when we were four, when mommy said this about our, you know, we couldn't, do potty training good enough for mommy, and we've been, anal retentive ever since. That's what to change our lives for the better. We have to actively listen to the truth of our Creator's unconditional love and move beyond the constraints of the assault of our past little voices. Susie, you're not doing it right. Johnny, you're stupid. No, you're none of those, right? I've made more mistakes than most, and that's a good thing because I've learned from all of them, right? And I never thought I had very great mentors in my life who never said, "Oh, don't ask me a stupid question." They said, "Any question you have is good. Any mistake you make is good as long as you learn from it." And that's one of my three major rules. I don't get involved unless I can learn something. Right? The major one is do no harm. Second one is find the exit strategy to get out of harm's way. And most important, to get the innocent folk who don't even know the rock is about to crush them out of harm's way. And the third one is don't get involved unless you learn something, right? And that is listening. All three of those things, you have to listen. You can't base any of those three things on a preconceived notion of good and bad, because there is no good and bad. Because everything here is basically an illusion. And nothing has not been created by love's co creation. And so when you talk to people who believe in the book, or this is good and that's bad, and you're good and this is bad, no, I'm sorry, that doesn't, because love, or God, if you want to call it God, God has created everything. That's including the devil, evil. God has created. Ergo, is God evil? If God created evil, is God evil? No. What it is that we have missed out on the context of all of this. We're still stuck in our bag of water. We still have this squirrel running around in our head saying, "Oh, I got to pay my bills. Oh, that person just said something mean to me. Oh, I blah, blah, blah. Oh, And then the cortisol starts flowing, and then the adrenaline takes off, and, we go looking for a gun. No, sorry. That's not how this works. You know? The thing is, all this stuff is, the illusion is, going around us like visual reality, and we're supposed to be learning. So making a mistake is good if you learn from it. If you repeat the same mistake over and over and over and over and over, Freud called that insanity. I call that hell on earth. So let's keep going. Got to keep moving. How desperately do we need to be loved and to love? Love is something we all must have. Our spirit, our soul feeds upon it. Without love, we become weak and faint, no longer able to look with courage and confidence out at our world. With love, we are creative and evolutionary. With love, we march tirelessly with the good thoughts in our healthy mind, speaking the good words that lead to ethical actions within our lives. With loves and love alone, we are able to sacrifice for others. Go, go figure. Go figure. Today, um, I have very limited resources, and today I was at one of my friends' restaurants, right? And I was there, and we're celebrating one of her friends' birthdays, right? And it's a bar. People drink. People kind of, become stupid when they drink. Anyway, so this was supposed to be a celebration of this guy, right? And he had been sober. I mean, he had issues with with alcohol most of his life, but he was what people would call, he could hold his job. He could do his thing. He didn't drink, but after work on a Saturday night, he wouldn't get arrested. He wouldn't drive. He was smart enough to call a cab, those kind of things. But he would say obnoxious things. He would be mean and cruel because he was drunk, right? Anyway, so he is basically in the last year, he had a massive heart attack, and it had a lot to do with his drinking. So he said, "Okay, and he changed his life really radically. I've known this guy a long time, and this little paper, I gave him a copy of this, and he took it to heart. So it's his birthday. I kind of went all the way over there, and I have very limited gasoline, and to celebrate his right. So before everybody showed up, he was there, and my friend who owns the restaurant was there, and kind of having lunch and this and that, and people strolled in, and so he got up from the table that we had been talking, and he really said, that thing you gave me to read, that's why I'm still alive and why I'm doing this. And I said, well, that's been my birthday present to you, and it will be my birthday present this year and the year after and the year after. And he says, yep, I still have it. I still read it. You're my brother, right? He gave me a big hug, right? So anyway, I went back to reading whatever it was and eating what I was eating. And this person came in and was drunk. And it was one of his drinking buddies. And, he hasn't stopped drinking. And they got into the drunk guy got into a big argument with this other guy. The other guy wouldn't argue. And so they were about to, he was about to get really upset because he wouldn't have the argument with him. And I'm just kind of looking up at this. And they basically, a couple of guys, the bouncers of this, because this is a private club restaurant kind of thing, they picked him up and threw him out, right? And then the lady who owned it said, why don't you go out in the parking lot and go talk to that guy, because he's the kind of guy who might do something really rash. I said, oh, okay. So I had another copy of this, right? And I went out to him, and I said, so where's your car? He said, I lost my car. I said, why'd you lose your car? He said, I lost my job. You lost your job. It's his fault, right? Pointing at the guy who's having the birthday inside the thing. I said, come on, you don't want to do that. Come on, let's here, let me take you to another place. So I drove him over to Dunkin' Donuts, and we sat there for about 4 hours. And, I had this, and we were reading. I had 2 copies. So I was reading it, and he was looking at it, right? And so he was, he drank enough coffee, so he wasn't really drunk. He just was starting to feel the effects, and we were talking about it. And anyway, I drove him back to his house. He still had his house. It was his mom's house. And he had no money. So I gave him the last of what money I had on me. I had a couple more dollars. I had my magic card. And, if I take everything out, I'll probably find the few dollars I need to keep going, right? But, I didn't call him a jerk. I didn't, and this is a guy who's not as good a friend as that other guy whose birthday party was. And I was taken away from that celebration with all those other people I knew to bring this guy to Dunkin' Donuts to drink coffee, to read this to him, and then take him home and get back here before it got dark 30, and I made a very nice pumpkin soup with sweet potatoes and virtually every kind of potato we had left, and some onions, and it was very yummy. So I did that, so I spent, from 10:30 in the morning till about 4 to when I got back here, just kind of dealing with other people, from the barber to this to that, and did I feel taken advantage of? Did I feel that I wanted someone because this guy was drunk, he said really mean, terrible things to me, because I've known him, but I'm not as good friends with him. He's not my friend. I know him. The other guy, my friend. And so now, after sitting a few hours in Dunkin' Donuts with him reading this, he is potentially a friend. I see the better parts in him, right? because he actually stuck with, instead of like huffing out, and I drove him over to the other side of town so he couldn't, because he didn't have a car, couldn't get back to that birthday party, right? And that he stuck it out with me for a few hours to read this thing and drank enough coffee not to be drunk. And that I said, I'm just going to take you home. And then I gave him that money, right? So, whatever level of apology anyone on this channel wants me to, that was like it right there. I just spent the whole day doing that, right? And I did not, and this guy's, like I said, some real nasty things to me that if I let the cortisol and the adrenaline and the fight and flight and, I felt, he talked to me that way. No, I just kept plugging away, trying to bring this to him, right? Back to it, and that's what a griot does. Reads you the text, tells you a story, right? Okay. Words that sweep us, okay. We need new words, okay. With love, we are creative, evolutionary. With love, we march tirelessly. With the good thoughts in our healthy mind, speaking the good words that lead to ethical actions within our lives, with love and love alone, we are able to sacrifice for others. Now, research, here it is, live chat, guys. Just kind of go up and read what research said, right? And I am going to read this paragraph specifically to research, right? And it's coming from my heart, going out to him, shamanically, energetically. I'm putting it out to him. Not only, specifically to him, but to all of you, right? All four of you, Oh, we need to learn to listen to words of love that our Creator is unconditionally speaking passionately within our superconscious mind. If we would only listen on our inside and trust the direct channel of our Creator's unconditional love, life of our world would transform all around us. We would just choose to live in love. Love would be our reality and not our present robotic illusion of fraudulent fear and deceptive hate. How desperately do we need to be loved and to love? Love is something we all must have. Our spirit, our soul feeds upon it. Without love, we become weak and faint, no longer able to look with courage and confidence out of our world. With love, we are creative and evolutionary. With love, we march tirelessly with the good thoughts in our healthy mind, speaking good words that lead to ethical actions within our lives. With love and love alone, we are able to sacrifice for others. We need new words to listen to connect and not separate ourselves from love's creation. Words that sweep away the ills that we feel as a people. We need words of love that connect we, the people, that is in all of us. No matter the nation, state, or city, we need to a blueprint like no other for human cooperation and acquisition of a higher evolutionary consciousness. We will pray with this highest form of prayer. We will pray with our breath. Now, if you read what research said in context to this, that is an apology beyond belief, right? Because that is a mechanism, a tool that we all can use to ascend into love's co-creation. Let's see. Get myself situated here. Let's see. Good is living in God's sanction, by existing awake within God's bequest, acting conscious within God's covenants and outside the everyday of being preoccupied on our self made separation on what does not really matter: the mortgage, what others think of us, our car, our lawn, our state. You know, why I feel so bad, you know, it is not because someone said something mean to me. Man's non concern of man's inequity, of man's everyday sins, of the separated robot senses of fear, greed, selfish hate, ignorance, and prejudicial thinking shows there is true evil in man's free willed world. When I speak of God's good grace, of civil courage, of the individual, that is the interconnectedness, the interdependence of humanity existing awake like Buddha in all of us, all it will take for the individual to awaken to the goodness that resides within our Father's house of our superconscious mind is the practice of prayer and meditation. The prayer and meditation that we will use will cut through our monkey mind, cut through our programming, genetic and cultural, to reveal a primordial awareness. This aboriginal awareness will allow us to act without cause or condition, no longer controlled by patterning learned and inherited. Breaking these chains will use our breath in love's prayer to breathe itself a prayer we do 26,000 times a day. That's how many times we breathe. Now, if we were to consciously breathe those 26,000 breaths every day, man, we could levitate Mount Everest. You know, prayer and meditation are the main key tools to the understanding our inner self, of our subconscious, of our superconscious mind. Prayer and meditation are the unpinning in the enabling of our free will to follow God's request for our world to return to that garden of our Creator's unconditional love. This is why prayer and meditation enables our free will to see, hear, and communicate with our Creator's unconditional love. We and our free will need this path of prayer and meditation to get back to our Creator's garden. All we have to do to attain this love is to listen, right? Now we go to our first lesson: how to listen, a most important thing. How well do we listen? What do we listen to? Why do we listen? Do we listen at all? How or what do we listen to? Do we listen to figure out our world around us? Do we listen or do we listen with an attitude? Is there a little voice inside our head that edits our thoughts or impressions and actions? We fear if we were told, or if we told anyone that we heard voices, the men in the white jackets would come for us. Whose little voice is it that we hear? Is it our voice, or a voice in a cage? Or is it the voice that is the keeper of the cage we hear? Or someone or something else that we do not understand? The cage, our lives for the better. We have no actively listened to the truth. Let's say to change our lives for the better. And I said, to change our lives for the better, we have to actively listen to the truth of our Creator's unconditional love and move beyond the constraints of the assault of our past little voices. Our inability of our senses to listen truthfully overshadows the new possibilities and the new openings that we desire and labor so hard to transform our everyday, the to only be oppressed by the little voices, separated robot senses of fear, greed, selfish hate, ignorance, and prejudicial thinking in our head. If we ever hope to set ourselves free within our negative existence, we need to break the chains of our sense seemingly reality that blinds us to our past failures and pain. Read that again. If we ever hope to set ourselves free within our negative existence, we need to break the chains of our senses seeming reality that blinds us to our past failures and pains. We must use our heart, mind, and body in new and intuitive ways to listen and to attain our soul's potential within the unconditional love of our Creator. We need to listen to our superconscious mind where our soul resides within our Creator's love. If we wish to understand that we exist far past the restrictions of our autonomic and robotic senses of illusion and meaningless self important habitual actions, the main motivation of all our soul suffering is our seeming navigation through the sea of separation of small taste, touch, making small course corrections through our lives of division and distraction from our Creator's reason for our existence. It's love. We need to learn to listen to the words of love that our Creator is unconditionally speaking passionately within our superconscious mind. If we only listen on our inside and trust the direct channel of our Creator's unconditional love, life of our world would transform all around us. If we would just choose to live in love would be our reality and not our present robotic illusion of fraudulent fear and deceptive hate. How desperately do we need to be loved? And to love is something we all must have. Our spirits, our souls feed upon it. Without love, we become weak. Words, let's see, we need new words to listen to connect and not separate ourselves from love's creation. Words that sweep away the ills that we feel as a people. We need words of love to connect, we the people, that in all of us, no matter the nation, state, or city, we need to a blueprint like no other for human cooperation, acquisition of a higher evolutionary conscious. We will pray with the highest form of prayer. We will pray with our breath, right? 20% in, 30% out, right? Oh, let's see, page 8. Let's see. Universal love, no, the universal laws of God. The law of attraction, the flow of God's energetic love between each person and the universe manifests that all things positive thoughts and attitudes draw on positive energy from the universe. Negative beliefs vibrate to attract negative results. Any person will usually get what they expect. Go into any situation with fear and anger, and you will receive anger and aggression. Go into any situation with love and friendship, you will receive kindness and fellowship. Law of God's love. Everything it made of energy that is God is love. This energy can be changed but never destroyed. There is more empty space in everything than solid matter. It is only the spinning of the atoms, of orbiting electrons and protons, and the subatomic particles of the nucleus keeping everything together. Within this spinning dynamo of the strong, weak electromagnetic and gravitational subatomic forces is the matrix of God's unconditional love. Love is God. There is no higher power than God's love, and no higher authority to the uh, apparatus of human existence than God's unconditional love and forgiveness. Our gratitude for love, for God's love, is the river on which God's love flows directly to us in our everyday, in every way. The strongest tool to feel God's love is our lives and is our intent, and the most powerful intent we can have in our lives is unconditional love and the forgiveness for all our fellow species, kind, plants, animals, and all of humans. All humanity's cultures, through their religions, hold no higher law than God's love and forgiveness, and have as each as their highest moral commandment the practice of God's unconditional love and forgiveness. Buddhism, hurt not others with that which pains you. Christianity, love your neighbor as yourself. Confucius, do not unto others what you would not that done unto you. Hinduism, do nothing to others which, if done to you, would cause you pain. Islam, no one of you is a believer until he loves his brother what he loves for himself. Judaism, what is harmful to you, do not to your fellow man. That is the whole of the Torah. Go learn it. Native Americans, do not do wrong or hate your neighbor, for it is not he who you wrong, but yourself. Shintoism, be charitable to all beings, for love is the servant of God. Taoism, regard your neighbor's loss as your own. The law of acceptance, the foundation is forgiveness. It is problematic for our separated will to accept that which challenges our separation from our Creator's love, whether it is someone or something that is different in appearance, attitude, or belief, but it is this challenge of acceptance that can be the first step to lessen the struggle and stranglehold of our will's delusion of separation from our Creator's unconditional love and forgiveness. For if we, its children, love is accepted, God's love accepts and forgives all of us, no matter what we have done. For what we have done that is evil has been done under the influence of our separation from our Creator's love and forgiveness, tantamount to being insane, drunk, or drugged. Okay, let's see. So, Jane, what do you think? Excellent sense album. Let's see. Evil is original sin that no longer exists since Jesus wiped out the original sin, his death on the cross. We're going through paces till Alpha, Omega, Jesus' Spirit returns as glory. And Jane, Jesus, I've met Jesus a couple of times. He didn't go anywhere. He stayed here. If Jesus had left, we would have been toast already, right? So, treatise. Thank you. But, yes, I wrote all this stuff. And so how I write. Every day I write. Every day before a computer, I would write in composition books. And then I would take the best ideas and write them in another composition book. And then I would write them in another composition book. And then I started to get access to computers and I started typing away. But over the years, I have some really great stuff on floppy disks, and I can't find any place to boot them up. And I've lost the floppy disk, and then, thumb drives and blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, I still got a lot of good stuff. But as I was writing those things, every time I did a different, generation of this, God would, influence what I was writing. So yes, I wrote all this stuff, right? But again, I've read a ton of stuff. So all the different teachers, like all the different guys I talked about in all those religions, I read them all, right? So all of this is a confluence of all of that, right? Not like straight out of I invented this. Yes, I wrote it down, but at the end of my little fingertips, there were all these other characters helping me work this out, right? So, and every time I write something or read something or do a YouTube, I meditate, go into state, see things in my Akashic record, go into my superconscious mind, hang out with love's co-creation, and then I hit go live, right? And then I do this, stream of consciousness, right? That I'm talking to you because I want to, um, you know, be that rubber mallet that hits you the tuning fork. Now, if you go read, last night I was in the midst of something and research made some kind of comment and I kind of just blithely, blew through it and he took it really personal. So he comes on the beginning of this thing and that's why I didn't get rid of it because I want you to go back and read what he said and put it in a context to everything I just said, right? And that's when you'll see that was a good thing. People say, "Oh, he shouldn't have said that." No, it's good that he did because it puts things into context. Hopefully, he will go back and watch this and get something out of this. And that's what I do. Meaning, I can like flick your nose so will kind of wake up, I do things that some people would say, well, that's not right. That was, no, I'm doing that to break you out of your, little straitjacket of this hell on earth that you live in, And back to the writings here. Let's see. Oh, the law of acceptance foundation is forgiveness, right? I read that. Let's see. No court can find guilty an insane or drunk person. So there is. Do I above my glasses? It's getting even harder to read with two sets of glasses on. That is what man has been since we separated our free will from God. Right. We've been guilty, insanely drunk, and drugged. Right. And those, uh, that insanity, that guilt and insanity came from um, the drunkenness and drugs we took were fear, anger, ego. The ego is the biggest drug we're under the influence of. And we, the children of God, can change our delusional world of separated robot senses of fear, greed, selfish hate, ignorance, and prejudicial thinking. In the blink of an eye, we, the children of God, can be back in the garden by simply accepting our Creator's unconditional love and forgiveness. See, the biggest fear we have is that we're not good enough. That the big daddy that doesn't even exist. God is love. It's not some guy in a big chair with a white beard. No. So love's co-creation is always, that photonic light that throws no shadows is completely engulfing us all the time with unconditional love and forgiveness. It's the separation is that we don't accept it because we don't feel worthy, right? Okay. So the next little rule is the law of gratitude. I wish I didn't write this. So, I wrote it so small so I could stick like 2 pages on one page because I don't have enough money to, to print instead of 15 pages, 30 pages, right? So, anyway. And this thing I wrote on a floppy disk, which I don't even have anymore, right? So, but I do have the hard copy, right? And see, what I would really love is that I would get a crew, of adepts that would be sitting in front of me, and they could take this and write it again in their own words, because then it would be better, right? would be expanded, because God said, when more than two come together in my name, there I am. Well, it's only right now me and Love's Co-Creation. We are the two, but I need a few more, right? So let's see. And everyone is suffering. I mean, like today's little experience, it's just one day. And between the barber and my friend's birthday and the guy who was really pissed off, I bumped into about 20 people who could have turned into that drunk, mean guy. But because I interceded before the bottle hit the table and talked to them for 10 minutes or 40 minutes or whatever I talked to all these people to, no, they kind of got it. And they thought, whoa, And that's me always paying forward, right? And that's why I'm always taken care of and protected, and I don't have to worry, I don't have, right now, that's what I have in my pocket. Like, let's see, this is all I got. Let's see, how much do I got here? Okay, this is all I have to, like, in my physical. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So out of the $43 I started with today, this is all I got, right? But I'm in a warm place, I made myself a nice thing of soup, so I'm not worrying. It'll take care of itself because I am doing my part, And if I need a lot of money, I'll win the lottery tonight, whatever. So, that's how and if we all could have that sense of serving Love's Co-Creation and not worrying about the stuff you don't even have to worry about. Like, I have no money. Oh, what am I going to do? No. So on we go. The law of gratitude. There you go. It fits in perfectly here. Okay. Read that. Anyway, it seems bigger on the screen. Let's see. The law of gratitude. We all at some time have put our life in future time. That is spending the time of our life rather than in the moment, feeling the grace of the gratitude for that which is right in front of us. Meaning every morning I wake up and go, oh, look, I'm still alive. I woke up. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Jesus. And I prayed for a good 20 minutes because it's the only way I'm going to get my butt out of the bed. Because when I go to sleep, I go to sleep. I sleep for 8 to 10 hours. And the only way I can sleep that way is that the plug of all my little bodiness gets unplugged, and it gets, so my soul really gets to rest, right? But when I wake up and that plug comes back together, the autonomic system that has been resting has kind of the sediments kind of go in. It's like, oh, my neck hurts. Oh, my joints hurt. All, the 50 years of me being an electrician and burning my rotator cuffs out and my wrists out and my fingers out and my kneecaps out and my hips out and my ankles out, it's like, ouch. And then I breathe in that 20% and breathe out that 30%. Right? And instead of getting up and doing Qigong, I go into state and I put every cell of my body into doing Qigong, not just my body itself, right? Because if you are just moving your body through this illusionary state, your every atom, you're only, putting the photonic energy of Qigong into about 20%. But you go into state and take that photonic light through the prana of your breath and connect it to the chi of your Mother Earth. Bingo, every cell of your body is going through that Qigong. And meaning I was taught martial arts, jujitsu and aikido to do that, to really, to do kung fu, you really have to be able to control your chi, right? not just your chi, but your connective tissue to your prana, right? And I can still do that. Now, can I move my arms and body and such as I did when I was 21, studying with my master? It's what I'm like is, so you see Yoda, right? He's got the cane and he hobbles and he can barely move. But when he's got to fight the Emperor, he can fly through the air and Now I'm not quite Yoda, but pretty much like the last time I had to do this, basically, there I was. Okay, I can't get away. I can't run. I haven't, I've like injected myself into the situation because there are these innocent folk here, and these guys are going to mess them up. Well, I had to intercede, but I was an old guy. So what did I do? I grounded my chi, and when this person was going to use me as an example, so everyone would do what his gang wanted to do, he went to, you know, mess me up. He grabbed me and went to throw me. And when he did so, my chi was so connected that I didn't move a centimeter, and he threw out every vertebrae in his back and his arms, and he fell to the ground and couldn't move. And it so shocked his crew that I gathered up the innocents and got him out of there. So I couldn't like fly through the air and punch and kick him and do all the stuff he wanted to do to me, but I could ground my chi. And so when he went to grab my arm to throw me across the room, it dislocated every joint in his back. Basically crippled him for life. And I didn't touch him. I didn't touch. He grabbed my hand, didn't move. I was like stone because I could control my chi, right? And that is the key to martial arts, any martial art, right? And the energetics behind it is your prana. And that's why I constantly bring you into state by connecting your breath to your prana and then having your prana create that field in every cell of your body. It grounds your chi, thus allowing you to travel through time and space and see in your Akashic record that all of this is an illusion, and you can get any information you need to bring forth the life you want. And that's what Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob is all about, to give you these tools. That's why I'm reading this out loud to you, right? Okay, back to it, right? Okay. The law of gratitude. The law of unexpected consequences is when we plan in, let's see, I wish I didn't write this so small. I almost need another pair of glasses. Let's see. We look at something at some time in the future, building an expectation that will be a disappointed automatically by the law of unexpected consequences. Meaning, the law of unexpected consequences is this: you expect something to happen, right? And you say, okay, I'm going to do this, and this is going to happen, right? That's what you want. That's what you're expecting. But the law of unexpected consequences, you fail at it. So you do the same thing over again. Instead of learning from that unexpected consequence, which is trying to teach you something, no, because you're so set in your ego, I'm going to do it again. I'll do it harder this time, right? And you fail again. The second time, you should start to look at, what am I supposed to learn from this, right? Now, if you learn the first time out, you're way ahead. If you failed twice and you haven't learned from it, doing it a third time ain't going to be won't get you a different outcome. And Freud said, if you do that, that's the sign of you're nuts. The unexpected consequence. The law of the unexpected consequence is when we plan to have a certain outcome by doing a certain action, and a completely different outcome comes to pass, usually when this happens, we feel disappointment for our expectation, our false hope have been dashed, broken, spoiled. But what has truly happened is that the authority of our higher self has acted through the influence of our superconscious mind to pick a more compelling and righteous path to take. We may have to look deeply underneath the destruction of our misguided expectation to find our true path. When we do, we will find God's unconditional love and forgiveness as the foundation of our new path. And the key law to consciousness is to be grateful, to release all the bounty that our Creator has bestowed upon us, and not whine for our lost illusion of our separated will. Okay? So, all you got to do is go back to the beginning of this live chat and read what research wrote, and pretty much this kind of goes to it. So, research had, you know, boop, 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 had done this, looked at something at some time in the future. We look at something at some time in the future, building an expectation that will be disappointed automatically by the law of unexpected consequence. Yeah, so we kind of had taken that perspective to look at that unexpected consequence. The law of unexpected consequences is when we plan to have a certain outcome by doing a certain action, and completely different outcome comes to pass. Usually, when this happens, we feel disappointed, for our expectation of our false hopes have been dashed, broken, spoiled. But what has truly happened is that the authority of our higher self has acted through the influence of our superconscious mind to pick a more compelling and righteous path to take. We may have to look deeply underneath the destruction of our misguided expectation to find our true path. When we do, we will find God's unconditional love of forgiveness as a foundation to our new path. And the key law to consciousness is to be grateful. I'm grateful for, all the pain and suffering that I've gone through my life. I've learned a lot, you know, and I still am learning more. I'm learning more and more every day through my failures, right? And that is the true essence of, a shaman. That is what a shaman does. I used to have this mystery school, and people would, my friends who I was in other mystery schools with, who they had the mystery school where they had, the website, and they were getting $600 for people to join so they could watch their lecture on their internet website. They would send me people who said, first they would say, well, you'll, I'm sending you this person because they're a real challenge, and I don't want to have anything to do with them. But you like these things. You learn stuff from guys like this. Me, I got a business plan to, I live in a real world of mysticism. I got to get my 1995, and I can't waste my time with these guys. But here, I'm sending them to you. And so, gee, thanks. And they would show up, and all they wanted was to give me $300, and for me to give them a diploma to call them a shaman or a mystic or whatever they wanted, And I'd say, well, that's nice, but no, you have to, I want you to go find a campsite up on the hill there. What do you mean? I want to live in the house. I said, no, you have to live up on the hill. Did you bring any camp gear? Like, when we talked on the phone, I emailed you a list of things you needed to have, like go get 2 5-gallon joint compound bucks at food grade with lids and put beans. And, I had a whole list of stuff, that would, whether I was there or not, they would survive and be happy on that hill. And they didn't bring it. Most of them. No, I expected you for $300 to feed me here and take care of me. It's like a hotel. No, it's not. Sorry. And that's what when I read the now I did have some classes that people were really great, and so that's why I kept doing it for a number of years, hoping that there would be more students like that than the ones who wanted me to feed them baby food. And they would get very upset when I would just say, like part of the thing I said, do not bring your pets, no dogs, no cats, no gerbils, no pets, right? Because you're going to have to be focusing all your energy on learning this stuff and not taking care of your animals. And if you bring an animal, you have to be responsible for it. And that will, I can't tell you how many people brought their pets with them, even though I had do not bring pets. Well, I wanted them to share this experience with me. I said, you can leave now. What? And I said, hey, what's in the curriculum? You didn't follow the curriculum. And it said in the curriculum, if you break any of these things, you're going to be asked to leave immediately. And they get very upset, but I gave you that check. I said, well, that's good for that, And people go, that's terrible. You're a mean person. Oh, you're a terrible person. Blah, 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 blah. Sorry. Okay. Oh, where did we leave off here? Where's that? Yeah, okay. But what was truly happened is that the authority of our higher self has acted through the influence of the superconscious mind to pick a more compelling and righteous path to take. We may have to look deeply underneath the destruction of our misguided expectation to find our true path. When we do, we will find God's unconditional love and forgiveness as the foundation to our new path. And the key law to consciousness is to be grateful and to realize all the bounty that our Creator has bestowed upon us, and not whine for our lost illusion of our separated will. Clear Roman statesman, orator, and philosopher. Creo. Cicero. Roman statesman, orator, and philosopher. And this is quoting him. Put it this way: gratitude is not only the greatest of virtues, but the parent of all others. Our perspective on our life has a great deal to do with our future. So being grateful has great power. Being grateful for the things we have keeps us in line within the power of God's positive love, thus attracting more of the same. By not being grateful causes the negative thought patterns, thus attracting negative outcomes. To help to prevent this negative thought outcome, take a few moments every day and make a list of the things that you are grateful. I am grateful I woke up this morning, and every morning I am. I am grateful for my good health that is getting better and better. I am grateful I have food to eat today and to clean water to drink and bathe. I am grateful I have a job that pays my bills. I am grateful for the home and that shelters me. I am grateful for the love I have and that love I can share, making others happy. For making others happy is one of the greatest gifts I have. I am grateful for and for I love and the forgiveness of my Creator, which gives me the power of positive thinking. By being grateful for all that you have, you will be given more and become positive thought patterns, invade and overcome our negative spiritual robot senses of fear, greed, selfish hate, ignorance, and prejudice, thinking you'll find more and more things to be grateful for and less things to fear, like a robot would. Unquote. And that was a quote from Creos, Cicero, Roman statesman, that whole thing. And he actually called, you know, the emotional status as a robotic form, right? So all of these ideas, yes, I wrote this stuff, but it came from lots of other people. And when a guy states it as well as that guy stated it, I just quote him. Because I'm pretty good at misquoting things. Okay, that's that page. That's 10. Okay. Here's the next law. Law of cause and effect. For every action, there is an equal and sometimes opposite reaction. There is one of nature's fundamental laws, and all natural laws have a human component. Cause and effect is the largest wall that the individual free will runs into on the freeway of separation and illusion from love's forgiveness of your creator. Love the universe, and the universe will love you. Hate, hurt, hurt, or try to get over on the universe, and it will tear you apart. This is short in the this in short is the cause of all evil in our universe of separation from our creator's unconditional love and forgiveness. Living in separation from grace and gratitude of our creator's unconditional love and forgiveness leaves us living in hell on earth as negative separation separated robots with the sense of fear, greed, selfish hate, ignorance, and prejudicial thinking. Living in the gratitude of love's forgiveness completes us as children of God and returns us to heaven on earth of, of love's co creation. Right? So that's why I do these shows, right? That's why I do them in a live chat. And that's why I keep them all up, because you can go back and see all these courses and see what people have said and put them into, you know, perspective, right? So I thank Research for all he's done. And I hope he comes back. I hope he reads this. I hope he can feel and have gratitude, not feel animosity, not feel separation, not feel fear, and all of those things, but gratitude, because that means he will be able to change his path into a much healthier and better one, and he'll be happier, right? And that's what it's about. So, what do you kids have been saying here? Let's read what you guys have been saying here. Let's see. Do, 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 do. Let's see. Helium-3. Yep. Mm-hmm. Well, Muff, if you go, just go to the top of this live chat and you'll see what Research said, right? I don't have to repeat it, but it's right there. And that's the beauty of this technology. It's right there. That's why I don't really blink things out unless people say, a trolly, really disgusting thing. Yeah, I'll take that out. But what Research said, no, I kept it in there. It's good. It's right there. Right? And put it into perspective to what we've been talking on here, And that's what this is. That's why it's a class. That's why I'm your sensei, Boom, 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 boom. I'm not just here to tell you stories. Do. He's at the top of the comments. Yep. What research said last night? Yep. And that's, just go to last night's thing and read that. That's I like the live chat, and I like the fact that it's there forever. That's why I have. Where did my little arrow go? There it is. What's it? Prayer shall be answered when two or more join together and pray. Yep, that's why I do those guided meditations. And that's why these shows are guided meditations. I go into prayer before I hit live chat. Yep, you can check later. I'm not Yoda. They didn't use the dim mock on the thug. Yes, right. Exactly. No, I didn't. I didn't kill him. I just let his anger and frustration and fear grab my arm. He went to throw me across the room, and you could hear his all his vertebrae, and I'm like, and he felt, because all the pressure. I mean, I didn't have to do the dim mock. His vertebrae did it to his central nervous system. He fell down on the floor, couldn't move, and instead of doing anything to anybody else, they were like, that was enough time for me to gather up the innocent folk and get them out that door and get them to run like heck out of harm's way, right? And got them to a safe place. Said, never do that again. Do not put yourself in that corner like that without an exit strategy, because I may not be there. I probably won't be. You were just lucky that I just happened along and decided to step in, because I was at that place when going, well, if I just turn around and walk away, yeah, I'll be safe, but these people are going to get messed up. So I stepped in because I could. I knew I could do what happened. I knew I had gratitude and grace of the situation. I knew love's was watching out for me. And if I served love, now if I went in there like, okay, and had my ego there, I would have been messed up. I just went in there with a prayer in my heart, on my lips, and breathing that 20% in and 30% out. And I was visualizing the prana, connecting every neuron and cell of my body into my chi in a way that would protect us all, put a shield around all of us. And that guy, because I wouldn't budge, he wanted to, make an example of this old guy, and he grabbed my arm, and that was it. That was, I didn't do it. Love's co-creation did that, Yeah, I got a haircut. I went to visit my friend, the barber. I don't look like a bush anymore, All of that stuff that was sticking out up here, it's like I trimmed it back. Now, the bits of long hair I turned into a little ponytail. So by summer, I will actually have a little ponytail. So I can kind of, I'm being funny about it. I'm going to look like my sensei did 50 years ago, just for fun, And by doing this, so I got I was getting tired of all my food sticking in my beard and things sticking to the sides of my head. I mean, I'd sleep on something and I'd wake up and, a cough drop would be sticking up, it was some. I go visit my barber once a year and he does this, right? So, and, he knew I had no money. So what I'm going to do is he's going to have this party this week before Christmas where he's going to give everyone who needs a haircut a free haircut. And he wants me to, he says, I know you got that Santa hat, I know your car has whatever you need in it. So, and he's right. I got this really great Santa hat. You've seen it on me. It's like gigantic. And I have a red sweater and, one of those really terrible Christmas sweaters with Santa and everybody on it. And and a pair of red sweatpants, and I'm going to show up that day, and you know, and people, the little kids, like today, the little kids, are you Santa? And I said, no, I'm Bob, Santa's younger brother. Really? Yep. I said, I take care of the naughty and nice, and we've been watching you. You've been really extra special, and it's not the gift you receive that really counts. It's the gift from your heart that you give. And the guy, what's that? I said, your mommy and daddy, who are really stressed out, and your brothers and sisters. If you just give them your love, that'll be the best Christmas for everybody, you and them. And, pretty much all those kids, yeah, you're right. Especially the kid whose birthday it was. And I said, not me, but the barber said, so today's your birthday. So did you wish your mom a happy birthday? And he goes, why should I? I said, well, she took care of you for 9 months inside of her. Then she's, fed you and took care of you and protected you all, the last 6 years of your life. You know, that's a pretty good present. And the kid actually thought about it. You could see it like tinkling around in his head. And he went over and hugged his mom and said, happy birthday, Mom. I love you. And his mom just started to weep. That is what I live for, seeing things like that. And I didn't do that. The barber did that, but I was there to appreciate it, right? And instead of getting a check for $1,000 this week, that was a way more valuable thing I received. And I have great gratitude for it, right? Robert. Yes, I got Bob's look, right? But like I said, the barber cleaned me up. I don't look like a bush anymore. Okay, let's see. Solid state batteries. Well, all of that's like, first of all, it's pretty toxic. First off, the rare earth elements you need, and this whole new green, new deal, bad deal. It will create way more toxic environment than burning oil. What we need to do is to go back to the 1880s when Tesla, using his prototype 0-point energy module known as, in Long Island, he built this gigantic antenna, and it was called Warden Cliffs. And 60 years later, Long Island Mining Company and Chase Manhattan Bank built right exactly on top of it a nuclear power reactor in Shoreham, Long Island. It was right on the corner of 25A and Tesla Boulevard. And Tesla, in his Colorado Springs experiments of the late 1870s and early 1880s, he developed wireless transmission and 0-point energy, right? He found a way to, through his high voltage harmonic resonance of scalar waves, he was able to open little doors between the dimensions where a tremendous, it's called the ether, or it's called the vacuum. If you were to Google Tesla, vacuum, ether, Morey, who else? What was there was a little dwarf who was quite brilliant. And what was his name? Anyway, they perfected, 0-point energy and anti-gravity in the 1800s, the 19th century, between 1840, and there was this Arrow, airship club in California that were all Germans. They came over from Germany, and they were all members of the Zool Society, right? Or the Tool Society or something like that. And they had been in communication with other dimensions who gave them, hey, you need to, this is where you need to look for this technology. And they developed it then, right? And if you go and look, this dark, journalist guy, right? Go to his website, dark journalist, right? He has amazing podcasts that you can get on YouTube. And you can go on my playlist, and there are all lots of them there. And he's got great interviews with Joseph P. Farrell. And Farrell has got the history down. Farrell's quite the esoteric, occult, technological historian. He's got it going all the way back into Samaria and even further back, right to the builders. He really has a story. And David Icke has a lot of really good information too. Those two guys, between those and Linda Moulton Howe. If you got go look at Linda Moulton Howe, Joseph P. Farrell, um, Catherine Austin Fitz, David Icke, those four, and this dark journalist, because he interviews all really good people. He really does. He's got a great staff. And he puts, I do these live chats. He produces a show with graphics and images and puts it up there to, photos and pictures and arrows and, and text and you name it. This guy does a great job. He really, really, really does. And he's a great interviewer, meaning he really tells the story and leads you down. He's not like a Nori of coast to coast who has to show you that he's a smart guy and he knew this, but no. But this guy he is a griot of this hidden knowledge. And he goes into every person you can think of, Van Tassel and Howard Hughes, and he gives you the real story behind all of this. But then you have to do like me, realize, wow, this guy's giving me, whoa, I am Alice going down the rabbit hole. And, but because it's up there, you can take notes, but you can always back and go see what he's saying. And if you give him the $13 a year and, pay for his blog, he puts all that information up on his website that you can just take down and put it on your hard drive and do your own. He's got all of the connects, he's done all the homework. You can use it and then just go from the point there and do your own and make up your own mind. You don't have to believe this guy, but he is a fund of information. Now, I'm just a griot. I'm telling you stories, and I constantly tell you, don't believe anything I say. But I'm that little rubber hammer that's hitting the, the tuning fork of your soul, and in your gut, you can feel whether this feels right or wrong. And that's another thing I'm trying to show you is how you need to be the tuning fork to, deal with this, and dig it up and say to yourself, what's real? And once you start going down that path, you're going to see, the veil will lift and you'll start to see what's going on. You'll see the hidden hand, the powers that shouldn't be, the sock puppets, and you will see what you need to do. And I constantly talk about being that pebble in the pond, making the little wave to change. If you want to see the world change, be that change. I keep saying that in every day and every way you take the piece of the earth and you make it stronger. And if you that is the path of your life, you're going to have a rich life. You're going to have a self-reflected life, which will be extraordinarily valuable because it will enable you to ascend past the wearing blender of karma. That's why I keep coming back from death. I can say, okay, I'm done with this. I'm tired. Sure, you can take a rest, but you're going to have to go in the pinwheel of karma, and God knows where you'll be thrown out. If you keep at it, and that's another thing, never give up. Never give in, right? And I'm telling you all these little interesting laws, the law of cause and effect, there is enough of God's energetic love for everyone to have all they want. There is enough love and prosperity to go around. The idea of the zero-sum game is just an illusion of our separated robot sense of fear, greed, selfish hate, ignorance, and prejudicial thinking. So that is the foundation of this illusion. I live in the real world. There is no such thing, right? The only reality is love, right? So if that is not your foundation, the only other foundation you can have is the idea of the zero-sum game is just the illusion of our separated robotic sense of fear, greed, selfish hate, ignorance, and prejudicial thinking. So you really want to live that? Does that sound like fun? I don't think so. Yeah? The way you think and the vibration that you transmit shapes the entire life and soul existence. You are what you think, feel, and speak. My grandmother said, you will be known by your words, ideas, and actions. And I pretty much have been doing that for my whole life since, I was 3, until I was old enough to understand what she was talking about. I understood it by watching her, meaning my whole life, as far as I can remember of her, is the integrity of her actions. She led by example. She was just a young girl who came from the mountains of Italy. When we were watching the guys walk on the moon in her apartment and, in her Motorola black and white TV, she was sitting in her lazy boy and I was sitting on the floor. And it's like 5:30 in the morning, Apollo 11 time. And we're watching this guy, and this is one small step for man, and blah, 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 right? She looks at me and she goes, Albert, you will remember this. And I was 69. I was, how old was I? I was 19. I'm 18 or 19, somewhere around there. And she said, when I was your age, I was living in a mountain village with goats, and I lived in a mud hut with a thatched roof, and we had no windows, and we had a door opening, but we had no door. We lived with the animals in our house because they kept us warm, right? And now here I am. She came here in 1890, so 69. It's like 70, 80 years. 80 years. In the space of 80 years, she went from living, in this village with goats and no technology. She said the only technology we had was candles and the wheel. That was it. We had no real anything, right? And now here I am sitting in my apartment with the air conditioner keeping me cool, and I'm watching a guy walk on the moon, and I'm seeing him in a little box. Yes, come on in. Okay. Remember the light bulb and the little switch. Yep. Ooh, and you know what else? Before you turn the light up there so you don't kill yourself, and then hit the light bulb on the bottom. Okay. And you can keep it on, and because I'm going to go down there soon. So turn the light bulb to the right, and it'll go on, and then hit the little button, and then the other lights will go on. What time is it? 9:30. We've been talking now for 2.5 hours. Anyway, so she goes, and I'm sitting here in the living room, the air conditioning, and I'm watching a guy walk on the moon on my Motorola TV, and she says, just think, 70 years, 80 years. So I guess that's, I went from goats in a mud hut to watching a guy walk on the moon in an air-conditioned apartment. And she looks at me and she goes, if you live for 80 years from here, you will see greater changes. Well, that was 69. Here it is, 2019. So that's like 70, 80, 90, 30, like 50 years, right? So she was talking about 80 years. Here it is 50 years. The difference is like, wow, because they're out there big time, So there's enough to go around. That's for sure. I've seen enough of technology to know there's enough to go around. So talking about that electric thing, everything that we have is like horse and buggy. And they already have George, when we watch George Jetson and we're going, where's my air car? I mean, they, Go watch that TV show that was made in the 90s and early O's, Stargate. That's the technology we have. And that was like 20 years ago. It's nice to be able to see where you're going.
Oh, yeah.
uh, oh, I thought you were talking about the kind of batteries they want to use for cars. What I think you're talking about, if you're talking about energy produced by sodium, you're talking about a thorium reactor. Is that what you're talking about? Because, yes, that, and before we went into uranium reactors, we had thorium reactors. And the beauty of thorium reactor is exactly that. It's made from salt. That is it. You don't need uranium. And but it does the same kind of, splitting off neutrons and causing friction, and ergo you get heat, right? And that heat is enough to make steam. The steam's enough to make, run a turbine. But using a heat sink, you can take that heat. You don't need to make steam, and that's what they did in the 1950s. But right now, using a heat sink from that thorium reaction, you can make straight up electricity. And so I think if that's what you're talking about, yes, that should really, and you can mass produce these things. You can make a device the size of a small, under the bar refrigerator, and that would make enough electricity for like 1,000 houses. Yeah. You could have a device about the size of a shoebox and put that in your car and drive it for 100 years and never have to. So yes, if you're talking about a thorium reactor, that's what. But kind of solid state batteries, that's the kind of things that they use in the Tesla cars, and those use basically rare earth elements that to get at really environmentally unsound, and then to get rid of those cars with those today our cars that we put gasoline in, when they need to be replaced, we kind of drive them into a junkyard where they crush them into a little square, and then they take it off and throw that into a Bunsen converter that kind of melts that steel down, and they make more steel. So gasoline in cars in the big picture isn't that bad. It's not good, but it's not that bad. It's not as bad as people are talking about. Well, if the whole world were to drive around, it would be a way worse thing. And it's more or less not so much what it's doing to the planet, but it's what it's doing to us. Like a good example would be Asheville, North Carolina, where it has I-40 and I-26 going to downtown Asheville. And Asheville is in a bowl, right? So the wind, no air, really doesn't take the garbage away. So 1 million cars go driving through Asheville every day, and the air pollution is worse than LA, and the effect on the humans, right? It's so bad that the hospitals don't make records of it, because if they showed how many people died of lung, instead of just saying, oh, that's asthma or OSB or whatever, or cigarettes, if they really looked at it, they said, boy, this looks, because I lived there, right? And Stephen Greer, I knew that guy. He was an emergency hospital guy. And a friend of mine I was like on the water board of Asheville. And basically, we started looking at what caused deaths, and the way to put it down, if you looked at it, biologically, you did, scrape the guy's lungs, you would say he died of, coal miner's disease, black lung, but it was car exhaust. So yes, in places like that, car exhaust is bad. But thorium reactor is the way to go, and I think that's what you're talking about when you say solid state batteries. And the next thing after a thorium reactor is 0 point energy. And that's way amazing. A thing the size of a beer cooler could run half of the planet. So, and they have that technology, right? So, and that's what I'm talking about. There is no scarcity. There's enough for everybody. I mean, why do you think Gene Roddenberry put on Star Trek? Because after World War II, he had worked in the Rad Lab. He had worked around a lot of these technologies. So and he was watching them go into blackness, that wasn't going to be shared with the human race. And he realized that these technologies were given to everyone, and that's what Kennedy wanted to do. That is what Dag Hammarskjöld, who was the first president of the United Nations, he wanted both those. Kennedy, because Kennedy, after getting run over by a Japanese, his PT boat was crushed. He got crushed himself. He came back. He was broken up, but he was still a commander in the Navy. And he still came from a very rich family. And his dad, after his brother Joe died, wanted him to be president. So he pushed him into, place, congressman, senator. But before that, he hung out with Forrestal. I mean, once he kind of got over being crushed and he was walking around, he was still in the Navy. World War II was going on. So he went and worked in intelligence. And Forrestal was the Secretary of the Navy before becoming the first Secretary of Defense with the 1947 National Security Act. And so Kennedy was privy to all of this. And Forrestal was one of the people who started MJ-12. And it got going, and then, Roswell happened, and there were other ships that fell out of the sky, and they were, collecting lots of technology. That's where we got integrated circuits and diodes and fiber optics and Teflon and Kevlar and, all of those kind of very interesting technologies. And we jumped in a matter of 5 years from horse and buggy to, solid state. So those are the kind of things you have to realize. These are the connective tissues of the world around you that you're going to have to, and the powers that be basically want to rebrand of the empire by doing what the Holy Roman Empire did in, 300 AD. They basically threw humanity under the bus. And when they had the ability to basically make a comfortable world for everybody. But that would mean they'd have to lose their geopolitical power, this little group of men, and they didn't want to do that. So what do? They had these crusades, which are just like the wars we're having. It crushed the economics of their time and basically threw everyone, back into the mud bowl, right? And so for 900 years, then they made it against the law for anyone to learn or cipher math unless you were high up on the tree of power. And they left humanity to roll around in their own slime for 900 years. And then when they realized, okay, we have reached this thing, we need to restart that illumination of man's quest, and that was the not just the Illuminati, but that's when culturally they kind of okay, we're going to have art, and that's when they built all those big cathedrals, because the cathedrals were their version of going to the moon. Because to build those things, they had to get lots of guys to learn math and science and all of that kind of stuff to build these gigantic, um, buildings. Couldn't just kind of throw this stuff together. Charge extremely fast without. Well, what I'm talking about is a thorium reactor, which is basically a solid state battery, but you don't have to charge it. Meaning, because of the reaction of thorium in salt, of ocean water, it causes the same kind of. It's a reactor like a uranium reactor, but it doesn't create any radioactive isotopes. Matter of fact, you could take all of the super toxic, deadly, radio, all those fuel rods that are going to last another million years, and stick them in a thorium reactor, and it would, it would eat up all that radiation, right? And the French do this, right? They actually have commercial thorium reactors. They're the only people, right? And Kennedy and the first president of the United Nations, both of them were killed because Kennedy wanted to swap their technologies, right? And Kennedy wanted to break the back of the Nazis that had taken over our government with Operation Paperclip, right? And this is why he was killed. And the people like LBJ and all those other politicians were in on it, you know? And so when you see the Marvel movies about Captain America, that's exactly what we're going through. That's exactly what's happening. Hail Hydra, you know? But, what I'm reading here to you, this process, right? So technology, it's almost irrelevant to talk. I mean, there's plenty of technology to go around, and no singular thing is, it's like there are a lot of great things that can be used, but they're hidden, like this little thing. I kind of, know what you're talking about, but within the construct of this, it's. I mean, if you can have a thing the size of, a little refrigerator run 1,000 houses and you never have to charge it, that's a lot better than a battery that you have to charge, because that means you have to get electricity from someplace else, right? Thorium reactor creates heat, which can be turned into electricity with a heat sink, basically, right? So if you were to just Google, Mr. Muff, thorium reactor, right? And like I said, before the uranium reactor, before Fermi, they had thorium reactors, but they didn't want to go there because they couldn't make the fissile material that they needed to make atomic bombs and fission bombs and fusion bombs. And we always seem to pick the weapon rather than the thing that will help humanity, right? Okay, gang, it's been a nice little trip. So we've read most of our thing, what we have. Let's see. Positive assertions and affirmations put to God. Speak them out loud so you can hear them. Okay, I'm closing with this, okay? God, hear me. Help me make these affirmations come to pass now. Thank you, O beautiful God, for all that I have received. For without your loving beauty and bounty, I would have nothing. O beautiful God, I request that you increase my estate in every day and every way, as so I may share it in every day and every way, and make the peace of your loving world stronger. Oh, beautiful God, I request my body is well and getting better and better. I am prosperous, content, and loved, and getting more so. Bring the love and lover into my life, close in a physical way closer to my heart, soul, and my life. I am lucky. Good things happen to me in every day and every way. I share my God given good fortune with all the world. My mind is the strongest organ in my body. When I focus on the positive, loving ideas, my mind can make miraculous happen. When I let my mind go negative, the outcome is less than special. So, God, keep my mind from going negative. My best skill is to be at the right place at the right time and to take advantage of God given good opportunities that are right in front of me in every day and every way. My God, fortune brings God's peace and prosperity to all the world and every day and every way. So, the simple prayer of this is, bless me indeed, enlarge my territory, put your hand upon my shoulder and keep me from evil, so I will do no harm. This thing was, me trying to be, excruciatingly explicit for, for the people I was having make that prayer. The simplest is usually the best. Bless me indeed, enlarge my territory. Put your hand on my shoulder, so I will do no harm. No, so put your hand on my shoulder to keep me from evil, so I will do no harm. So that is a tried and true ancient prayer. Bless me indeed, enlarge my territory, put your hand on my shoulder to keep me from evil, so I will do no harm, right? I said solid state batteries were toxic when taking. Say. And what did I say before anything I ever said? Don't believe a word I say. Check it out for yourself. When you guys nitpick stuff, really, you want to go there? Okay. Good luck with that. Exactly. All you got to do is Google, thorium reactors. Go check that out, Mr. Muff. Okay. Is it a Miss or Mrs. or Mr. Muff? Right? Muff cabbage. That sounds like a pretty sordid name. Muff cabbage? Doesn't taste good. It doesn't taste any good. Not quite sure. I don't think I do act like I know stuff. Because I keep saying, don't believe a word I say. I don't know anything. I pretty much use that as the beginning, middle, and end of every show I have. So, Mr. Muff Cabbage, and you almost sound like, what do they call you? A troll? You're nitpicking on stuff that really, we were talking about a little higher motif here, how to learn to listen, how to learn to love. I mean, these are the real more important things than some kind of battery, I mean, if I was given the authority to say, how are we going to have our energy? I would say, hey, kids, there's this ancient, not ancient, well, it is ancient, the Egyptians actually had it. So thorium reactors, if I was going to pick any singular technology to be an interim, not the be end and end all, but an interim, because 0 point energy is really the more, because that's almost unlimited power with a thing the size of a shoebox, and Tesla developed it in the 1880s, so. And, different powers that shouldn't be have been using it for black means. Like, again, Mr. Muff or Miss Muff or Mrs. Muff, go to the channel, the blog, Dark Journalist, right? See, all these technologies, I'm just going to call you Muff or Muff. You basically, you use, it's called Institute for Aesthetically Appropriate and Adapt Technology, meaning you use the technology that's right for the thing. You can't find a singular all for one and one for all. This is it. This is the answer. No. You find the technology that fits. Back in the day, we found when plastic bottles were first a clear, plastic, those 1 liter soda bottles, and Africa was being overrun with them in the 60s and 70s. We found that if you just took water on the ground and filtered out the grub, the dirt, the ick, and just had the cleanest water that you could get in that bottle by putting a sock over it and pouring water in there, um, and then putting the cap on and putting it in sunlight, the UV would go through that plastic and kill all the little buggies in there. And then you'd have another liter bottle with a funnel and maybe some cheesecloth, and you pour that bottle after a day or so into another bottle. Now now it doesn't really have any cloudiness. It's kind of clear, and you put the cap on, you stick it in the sun for another day, and that UV kills it. And then you do it a third time, and then you have potable water. Now, Africa was being run over by these plastic bottles, and you know, we at our little NGO said, "Hey," we went to UNICEF and said, "Hey, put this out in all your people out there to have them collect the bottles and put water in it." And 1 year, they cut all the waterborne diseases in Africa by almost 30%. Right? Then what happened? About a year later, after this thing's really getting to go and it's really giving everyone in Africa, out there in the bush where they're not even close to anything, there's no piped or welled or any kind of water, but a lot of pollution, making the water unsafe to drink. Um, what happened was the companies that made those bottles put something, they made them, instead of clear and letting the UV go through them, they made them green and brown and put things in that would shield the contents of those bottles from UV. So here was a simple technology that we didn't even have to manufacture. They just had to collect those bottles and do that, and and then 2 years later, the statistics of waterborne diseases went up, meaning somebody wanted those people to die from that, not be saved by that. So to pick any specific technology is a waste of time. It's the appropriate technology for the appropriate task at hand. And that's what technology should be used for, not as a political, you know, you know, ping pong ball to argue over. And that's what this new Green Deal is going to be. That's what, all of what's happening to the earth. I mean, we are heading for an ice age, really, and it would take too long. I'm too tired to really go on into that. But if you want to know about that, there's a guy named Art Bell who wrote a book called The Day After Tomorrow, right? He was the guy who started the radio show Coast to Coast, Dreamland, Coast to Coast. And why I picked Dreamland, or Dreamy Dreamland, was a little tip of the hat to Art Bell, because he started doing his show in the 90s, and he was a tip of the hat to the old radio guys of the 50s, who talked about the same stuff in the 50s. Right? And he started this whole, movement of, Gaia and all of that stuff. And he's dead now. But he was, go look up Art Bell and Coast to Coast. George Norrie now runs the show and does a very icky job compared to what Art Bell did. You can go and listen to both of them, And so, like I said, I'm here to be your storyteller, muff, instead of, being to, be your guru to tell you what to do. Not so much. Not my place to tell you what to do. And I constantly say this, Miss Muff. Don't believe a word I say. Oh, so at 3 hours and 03 seconds, I will sign off, and it's going to be close to that. So I love you guys. And yep, just cheesecloth. Well, you can throw some charcoal tablets in there if you wanted. Charcoal is always good for you. But the UV is the thing that really kills the bugs. So, but again, don't believe a word I say. I'm just your storyteller. But Muff, what do you think about the questions? And so, what questions do you ask yourself, Muff? Do you have a self-reflective life? You know, where are your teeth? They're not in my head, that's for sure. Do you? What do you question about yourself? You know, questions and your answers. Who are you? Where did you come from? Why is life so selfishly difficult for you, Mr. Muth? No? So the question still stands. Who are you? Where did you come from? Why is your life so unfair? What is your life? What matters to you? Muth, what matters to you? Muth, what is important to you? What is your moral values? Muth, do you know love's co-creation? Do you serve love's co-creation? What does and do you have a church? What do you follow? What do you believe? You're the life of the party. What emotion do you mostly express? What do you appreciate? What beauty do you appreciate? So, Muff, what books have you read lately? Have you read the Bible? Have you read the Torah? Have you read the Quran? The Thou? Have you read any of Emerson? What is your favorite book by Emerson? Who are your favorite authors? Muff? Muff, your relevant question. And that's why I will leave you up here, Muff, because no one else is having a conversation with you because you are irrelevant. Oh, well. And I wish you the best, Muff. So, Muff, what part of the Bible do you like? Do you know the story of Job, JB? Oh, boy. Oh, well. It's almost time to say good night. Sweet dreams, I say to you. Good night, sweet dreams. Let your heart be in love with love's co-creation. Do not be a sorry muff. 2 hours, 58 minutes, and 47 seconds. So, what good words? Hey, Jane, Book of Job, yes, my favorite, right? I love the fact, that basically the devil and God are hanging out like buddies. Like you can imagine them be hanging out in a bar and they're like looking through this little window at Job. And God saying, "Look at my Job. What a great guy he is," right? The devil's like smoking a cigar, going, "Yeah, look at all the great stuff you give him. Of course, he loves you. Just think if you took it away." It's like we're some kind of TV show. Okay, it's getting close to quitting time. So, Jane, good to see you. Just as we're going, 2 hours and 59 minutes and 46 seconds. When it hits 3 hours and 3 seconds, I'm saying goodnight. So, in a few seconds, I'll see you tomorrow, gang. Kind of watch the show again, and any questions that are relevant to love's co-creation, we'll bring it forth. Okay, I love you guys. You stay well. Come on.